Today we're going to be talking about finding equivalent ratios given the total quantity. The objective today, I will demonstrate my mathematical ability to use tables to find the equivalent ratio of two partial quantities through cooperative learning. Okay, the first problem of the day. When a business buys a fast food franchise, it is buying the recipes that used at every restaurant with the same name. For example, all pizzeria specialty house restaurants have different owners, but they must all have the same recipe for the pizza, sauce, bread, etc. You're now working at your local pizzeria specialty house restaurant, and listed below are the amounts of meat used on one meat lover's pizza. There's 1/4 cup sausage, there's 1/3 cup pepperoni, 1/6 cup bacon, 1/8 cup ham, and 1/8 cup beef. Now my first question, since we're dealing with all these fractions, is what is the total amount of toppings that we're going to use on this meat lover's pizza? Well, I can do that by going ahead and starting to add. So if I can add 1/4 plus 1/3. Now remember, I have uncommon denominators. The first thing I must do is get them to be a common denominator. Well, I know that the least common multiple of both 4 and 3 is 12. So I'm going to make my denominators 12. Okay, so I have 4 times 3, so 1 times 3 is 3, and this is 4. So I get 7/12. Okay, so far. Now, 1/6 is going to be 2/12. So I'm now up to 9/12. Okay, now I can do one of two things. Okay, I can go ahead and add these two together since they're common denominators, and that is 2/8. Okay, and 2/8 reduces to 1/4. And the reason I did that way is because it's easier for me to add this to here than the other way around. Okay, so I bring in my 9/12 down, plus, remember my 1/4 is the same as 3/12. I add those, and I get 12/12, which equals 1. Okay, remember this is this right here. Okay, so what is the total number of toppings on a meat lover's pizza? It is 1 cup. Remember, when you're adding fractions, you have to have common denominators all the way through. And then once I do that, remember, whatever I do to the bottom, let's do to the top. Once that is done, then I can just add the numerators. Okay, we're going to continue using the same information, so make sure you have this down. Okay, and let's take it to the next problem. Okay, so we're going to make pizza, and we have, say, a home football game. Okay, and at this home football game, we're going to place 3 different orders of pizza because we ran out of pizza at the concession stand. So, in order 1, I want to know how many cups of meat I need to use for the first pizza. Well, if I look at sausage, okay, it says 1/4. Well, what do I need to do to 1/4 to get me to 1? I have to multiply it by 4. Okay, so if I go 1/4 times 4, that's going to equal 1. Now let's go to pepperoni. Okay, I have 1/3 times 4. Okay, well, 1/3 times 4, 1 times 4 is 4. 3 times 1 is 3, so I equal 4/3, or this is 1 and 1/3. Okay, bacon, I'm going to look at the bacon, and it said it needs 1/6 of a cup of bacon. So 1/6 times 4, that's going to be 4/6, which reduces down to 2/3. Okay, ham, let's just make sure that they're correct here. I have 1/8 times 4, which is the same as 4/8, which is 1/2. So that's correct. Beef, I'm going to go 1/8 times 4. That equals 4/8, which also equals 1/2. And if I was to total these up, okay, this equals 2, so 2 plus 3, or 2 plus 1 is 3. 1/2 plus 1/2 is 1. So 1 plus 3 is 4. So the first total pizza order was 4 cups. Let's go and do the same thing over here now with bacon. Okay, you'll see a pattern. Now, I'm going to take 1/6 times something to get me to equal 1. Well, we talked about the other day with our reciprocal, if I go 6 over 1, that's going to equal 1. So I'm going to multiply this now by 6 as my multiplier, so I'm going to put this up here. So I'm going to go 1, let's get this right, so I have 1/4 times 6. Okay, so I have 6/4, which is the same as 1 and 1/2. Okay, do the same thing with 1/3. Take 1/3 times 6, which is 6 over 3, which is the same as 2. Okay, and you know that this is 1. Let's do 1/8. So I have 1/8 times 6 over 1. I have 6 over 8. I reduce that down to 3/4. Okay, and because I know that also that I have the same number of cups of beef and ham, I really don't need to figure this out because I'm going to just have 3/4. If I add those all together, let me take this down. If I add this all together, I should equal 6 cups. Okay, and I could do the same thing in the last order as well. Okay, what I'm not for the sake of time. If you have questions on this one, bring this one to class. Let's look at it. I'm going to show you one more problem. I'm going to add to it just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to this table shows shows 6 different size pans of the same recipe for the macaroni and cheese at our pizzeria restaurant. Okay, if the recipe relating the ratio of ingredients stays the same, how might it be altered to account for the different size pans? So we have a couple things going on here. We need to find out, you know, our noodles and our cups of cheese, and that will make our pan size. Okay, well, this one's pretty easy. 3 plus 3/4 is 3 3/4. Okay, I got that without too much of a problem. However, it's the rest of this that's going to be the problem. Now, I'm going to show you 2 different ways that I could find this out. Okay, so make sure you have this information down right here. Okay, and I'm also going to tell you that this first column is going to be my X. This is going to be my Y. Okay, because the amount of cheese is going to depend on how many noodles I have to cover it up. Okay, it doesn't matter how much noodles. So my noodles are independent. My cups of cheese are dependent. So take 3 cups of noodles and 3/4 cup of cheese, and we're going to take that into our next slide. But we're coming back to this one, so just be ready. Okay, so remember we had my X was noodles, okay, and that was 3. My Y was cheese, and that was 3/4. Okay, now there's 2 ways to do this. Okay, I could find my constant, which we know how to do that, which is K equals Y over X. So my Y is 3/4 divided by 3, right? So I'm going to go right horizontal like we did yesterday in class. So 3/4 divided by 3. I'm going to multiply by my, well, first off, everything's in improper or proper. So I'm going to go 3/4. I'm going to multiply by my reciprocal. Okay, my 3's cancel each other out. Well, they don't cancel, but they equal 1 because the greatest common factor is 3. Now I multiply that across. So my K here equals 1/4. Now I could write my equation, Y equals 1/4 X. Now I could use my equation to go back and forth here to solve this out. Let's use an example of how we can do that. Okay, So this next one that we need to try to find, okay, is 1/4. 1/4 is my y. So let's go ahead and go back to our slide. So y we said was 1/4. So I'm going to go 1/4, or y equals 1/4 x. Plug this in here. So I have 1/4 equals 1/4 x. I want to move this to the other side. So the opposite is to divide. Well, we know when we divide fractions, we're going to simply multiply by the reciprocal. I know this is challenging, but pay attention because we've talked about it. Alright? And then I'm going to multiply over here, 4/1. And then I know that this all will equal 1. So x equals 1. Alright? So I go back over here, this will equal 1. And I could go through and figure this out. Now the hard part here is to figure this out. Okay? Well, we have to figure out one of them. The other way to do it is to make a proportion. So I'm going to use 3/4 and I'm going to make it easy. I'm going to go 3 and 3/4, and I'm going to go 5 and my unknown. Okay, you're going to see here in just a minute what I mean. So 3/4, we'll do the y, to 3 and 3/4 equals, this is my cheese, and this is my total. So my other total, the 5, has to go down on the bottom. And now I simply have to multiply and divide. This is going to take some work. Alright, it's not something that's going to be so easy. So I'm going to come down here, I'm going to change my pants to know which problem I'm working on, and I'm going to multiply the diagonal. This is where we come into cross multiplication. Okay, so I'm going to go 3/4 times 5/1. Okay, look at my diagonals, can't do anything. So I have 15/4. Alright, now that is going to equal this other diagonal, okay, which is 3 and 3/4 times x, which I just simply have 3/4 x. Okay, look at what we did over here. What did we do to move it? We actually, well, I would first write this as improper. So 4 times 3 is 3, or 4 times 3 rather is 12, plus 3 is 15. Okay, so I have 15/4 x equals, let's go and get the right color so we don't get ourselves confused, 15/4. Now, what did I do when I wanted to move this? Well, if we look over here, I had to multiply by the reciprocal, because I'm multiplying here, I want to divide by the fraction. When we divide by fractions, we're simply just going to multiply by the reciprocal, so I'm going to multiply by 4/15. And do the same thing over here. Multiply by 4/15. Okay? So when I'm done with all of this, I'm going to get x equals, well, 4/15 times 15/4, those are reciprocals that are going to equal 1. So my x, or, you know, this is really my y. Okay, let's change this. This is really my y. Is going to equal 1. Okay? This should really be y. I made a mistake. Well, it doesn't really matter what variable you use, as long as you know which one. So we take it back to our table now. Okay? I know that I have 1 cup here. So that means that has to mean that I need 4 cups of noodles to equal my 5. 1 plus 1/4 is 1 and 1/4. Okay? And I could keep going and going and going to figure this out. At this moment I'm not, because it's going to be the same pattern. Now, I know this is getting really difficult. Make sure you write a good quality question. Remember, our questions are our point of confusion. Is there something that still confuses you? Is it writing the equations with all the fractions? Is it, you know, using the proportion? Okay? Write a good question. Do you have a discussion? Do you want to know more about why we do something the way we do it? Or an example. With your example, do not just write what I wrote here. Okay, I know what I wrote here. I want your own example. So give me an example how you made an equation from two fractions. Okay, when you're trying to find something. Those are some examples of what I'm looking for. Alright, I will see you in class.